A man sold his father's shotgun across my counter for $400 because he needed a transmission. I am not going to tell you that was the wrong call. A man has to get to work. That is not a decision anybody gets to second guess from a chair. What I will tell you is that nobody in that transaction, including him, knew what he had. And that is the part that was fixable. It was an old pump gun, worn finish, and it took me about a minute to see the things that mattered. A barrel marking nobody makes anymore, a stock that had never been off the gun, screws that had never had a screwdriver in them. That gun did not need to be worth $400. It needed somebody to spend 1 minute looking at it before the price came out of somebody's mouth. So today I am going to show you 10 shotguns that are quietly appreciating, and more importantly, I am going to teach you how to tell whether the one in your closet is one of them, because the second thing is worth more than the first. But before we start, I have to be straight with you about that thumbnail, because I wrote it, and I do not entirely like it. Nothing is priceless. Everything on this list has a price, and I'm going to give you real numbers. And a shotgun is a mediocre investment. Money in an index fund over 30 years beats almost every gun on this list, and anybody who tells you different is trying to sell you one at a premium. That is the honest frame. Here is the actual reason to care. These guns are not making any more of themselves. The good ones are getting rarer every year because people keep sanding them and drilling them and refinishing them, and the one you inherited may be worth several times what a shop will casually offer you for it. This video is about not getting taken. It is not about getting rich. And my number one is going to annoy the collector crowd, because it is not the rarest gun on the list, and it is not the most expensive. It is the one that gets destroyed most often by people who love it. Do not skip. The reason matters. Let me say one thing, then I will leave it be. Everything I have picked up behind that counter, how to buy right the first time, what is worth your money and what ain't, I put it all in one book over at buyproven.com. If you want it, it is there. That is all. Now let us get back to it. Real quick, so you know who is talking. I am Emmett Boone. I spent 11 years working warranty returns for a firearms distributor, which means my job was opening the box when somebody mailed a gun back and writing down why. These days, I run projects at a custom rifle shop. I am salaried. I do not work commission. I get paid the same whether you buy something or walk out of here, and that is exactly why I can tell you the truth. Here's the filter for this one, and it is not the usual one. 3 things drive the value of an old shotgun, and only 3. Originality, meaning nothing has been changed, refinished, sanded, or drilled. Condition, meaning the original finish is still there. And whether they can still make it, meaning the factory, the process, or the labor, no longer exists at any price. Notice what is not on that list. Rarity by itself is worth almost nothing. There are plenty of rare guns nobody wants, and condition and originality beat model and maker every time, which is why a common gun in untouched condition can be worth more than a rare one that somebody helped. Write that down if you write down anything. Original beats rare. Number 10. The Winchester Model 12 in 12 gauge, the one almost everybody's grandfather actually owned. Winchester built the Model 12 from 1912 to 1963 in the original run, and they built about 2 million of them. So let me be clear right away that a plain field grade Model 12 is not rare and is not going to change your life. $300 to $600 for a shooter. Here is why it is on the list anyway. It is machined from solid steel with no stampings anywhere, and that is the reason it stopped being made. Not because it was a bad gun. Because in 1963, Winchester ran the numbers and found they were losing money on every one they built, and nobody has been able to justify that kind of machine time since. You could not manufacture this gun today at a price anybody would pay, where the money actually is in the sub-variants, skeet and trap grades, solid ribs, factory engraved guns, and anything in 28 gauge, which they made very few of. A 28 gauge Model 12 in good original condition is a $4,000 gun and climbing, and a lot of people do not know that number. So check the gauge stamp before you do anything else. It takes 2 seconds. And the gun one spot up is the same story with better wood. Number 9, the Ithaca Model 37 in 20 gauge. John Browning drew the design. John Pedersen finished it, and Ithaca started building it in 1937 once the relevant patents expired. Bottom eject, which meant no ejection port cut in the side of the receiver, which meant a genuinely ambidextrous gun and a stiffer receiver at the same time. Elegant engineering. Field grade 12 gauges are common and cheap, 3 to 500, and they are wonderful guns to actually use. The value lives in the 20 gauge on the small frame, in the featherlight guns, and in anything from before the company's troubles in the 80s. Here is the mechanical detail that matters. The old ones were built on a receiver scaled to the gauge, so a 20 gauge Model 37 is a genuinely small light gun rather than a 12 gauge frame with a smaller hole in it. That is expensive to tool for, and almost nobody does it now. Those are $800 to $1,500 and rising. Where it costs you is that a lot of them got hard use as farm guns and the finish is gone. Refinished ones lose most of the premium. And that theme runs through this entire video. Number 8, the Remington Model 31. Made from 1931 to 1949, about 200,000 of them, and it is the smoothest pump action anybody has ever built. That is not romantic language. Handle one, and you will understand immediately. Shooters used to call it ball-bearing smooth, and Remington's own marketing leaned on it. It lost to the Model 12 in the market and got replaced by the 870 in 1950, which was cheaper to build, and that is the whole story of why nobody knows about it. Which is exactly why it is on this list. It is genuinely underpriced right now relative to how good it is. $400 to $700 for a nice field gun, more for the higher grades and the small gauges. As the Model 12 market gets picked over, this is where the money goes next, and I have watched that start to happen over the last few years. If you find one in a pawn shop at a plain pump gun price, that is the buy on this whole list. Number 7, the Browning Auto 5, and specifically the Belgian guns. John Browning designed it, patented it in 1900, and it was in continuous production for 98 years, which is longer than almost any firearm you can name. Long recoil action, that square-backed receiver everybody recognizes. Here is the thing to know, and it is the whole value proposition. The early guns were built by Fabrique Nationale in Belgium. Production moved to Japan in the mid-70s. The Japanese guns are excellent, and I will not hear otherwise. But the Belgian guns were built in a way that is simply not repeatable, hand-fit, hand-polished, with a depth of bluing that came from labor nobody can afford now. A Belgian Auto 5 in good original condition runs $800 to $2,000, depending on grade and gauge. Sweet 16s in original condition are their own market, and they climb steadily. The check is easy. Look at the barrel markings for the Belgian proof marks and the FN address. A Japanese gun will say so. This is a 30-second inspection that changes the number by $1,000, and that is exactly the kind of thing this video is for. Number 6, the Winchester Model 21 side-by-side. This is where the money gets serious. Winchester built the 21 starting in 1931 as an American answer to the British best guns, and it was famously overbuilt. The story that gets told is that Winchester Proof tested one with loads that wrecked competitors, and the 21 kept going, and whether every detail of that story is exact, the engineering behind it is real. They stopped regular production in 1959 and moved it to the custom shop, and that is because it never made money. Too much hand labor. Field grades start around $4,000 to $6,000. Higher grades go into 5 figures without much effort, and the custom shop guns with documented factory options go wherever the collector market says they go on a given day. Here is the flaw, and it is a real one for most people. This is not a gun you find at an estate sale for $100 anymore. That market got picked clean in the 90s. If you own one, you already know what it is. If you are hunting for one, you are competing with people who know more than you do. Number 5, the Parker brothers side-by-side. Parker built shotguns in Connecticut from the 1860s until Remington bought them in 1934, and they are the most collected American shotgun by a wide margin. graded from Trojan at the bottom through VH, GH, DH, CH, BH, AH, and the A1 Special at the top. A Trojan grade, the plainest one, is $1,500 to $3,000. The middle grades run $5,000 to $15,000. The top grades are collector car money, and I am not going to pretend I have handled many. Here's what matters more than the grade. Original barrels, original stock dimensions, matching serial numbers on barrel and receiver, and no refinishing. A Parker that has been reblued and had the wood sanded loses more than half its value, and it does not come back. Ever. I have watched a man take steel wool to a Parker because he wanted it to look nice for a photograph. That is thousands of dollars removed in an afternoon by somebody trying to be helpful. Number 4, the L.C. Smith, and specifically the L.C. Sidelocks. Smith built these from the 1880s through 1950 with a gap, and they are the only American production sidelock shotgun, which is the whole story. Sidelock means the lockwork sits on removable plates on the sides of the action rather than inside it, which is how the British best guns are built and how essentially nothing American was. Field grades run $1,200 to $3,000. The higher grades go well past that. Here is the honest problem, and you have to know it before you buy one. The Smiths have a known weakness where the stock joins the receiver, and a lot of them have cracked there over the last century. A cracked head on one of these is a serious repair, and it hits the value hard, so the check is specific. Pull the stock and look at the wood where it meets the metal, or have somebody who knows do it. An uncracked original Smith is worth substantially more than a cracked one that looks identical from 3 feet away, and this is exactly where uninformed sellers lose money. Number 3, the Winchester Model 42 in .410. Winchester built the 42 from 1933 to 1963, and it is a Model 12 scaled down to a true .410 frame. Not a 20-gauge frame with a small barrel. A purpose-built miniature, and about 160,000 were made. Nobody is going to tool up for that again. A scaled receiver for a low-volume gauge with that much machine time in it does not pencil out at any price a buyer would accept, and that is precisely why it climbs. Field grades run $1,200 to $2,000. Skeet grades, solid rib guns, and the engraved variants go into the $4,000 to $8,000 range, and the very best go past that. And here is the trap in this one specifically. Model 42s got shortened, a lot of them. People cut the barrels for grouse and rabbit work in thick cover, and a cut barrel takes a $2,000 gun down to $700. Measure it before you assume anything. Number 2, the Winchester Model 21 and Parker are the famous ones, but the near miss on this list is the Fox Sterlingworth and the higher Fox grades. A.H. Fox built shotguns in Philadelphia starting around 1905. Savage acquired them in 1929, and production faded through the 40s. Teddy Roosevelt called his the finest gun made in America, and that quote has been doing marketing work for 100 years. The Sterlingworth is the working grade, and it is the best value in American double guns right now. $800 to $2,000 for an honest original one, which is real money but a fraction of a comparable Parker. The graded Foxes, the A through F guns, go up from there considerably. Why, it is the near miss and not the winner. Fox parts are genuinely hard to find. Gunsmiths who know these actions are getting scarce, and a Fox that needs work can be expensive to make right. The gun appreciates, the maintenance appreciates faster. Number 1, and here's the rule I am breaking. This hobby says the rarest gun is the most valuable gun. Everybody believes it. It is why people chase serial numbers and low production variants and obscure makers. It is wrong, and the gun that proves it is the Remington 870 Wingmaster from before, about 1980. I know, half of you just checked out. The most produced shotgun in American history, 11 million of them, on a list about appreciation. Here is why it belongs. Value is not driven by how many were made. It is driven by how many survive untouched, and those are completely different numbers. 11 million 870s were made, and a vanishing few early Wingmasters exist today with original finish, original wood, uncut barrel, and no drilling. Because they were working guns. They got used, they got sporterized, they got camo dipped, they got receivers drilled for scope mounts, they got barrels cut, they got stocks replaced with plastic. The old Wingmasters were machined and hand-polished with a depth of bluing the current production does not have, and the wood was real walnut fitted properly. Remington changed the manufacturing over the decades for entirely sensible cost reasons, and the gun is still good, but it is not that gun anymore. A clean pre-1980 Wingmaster with original everything is running $600 to $1,200 right now, and the earliest ones with high condition go higher. 5 years ago, nobody was talking about this at all. I know some of you wanted a Parker or a Model 21 in this spot. I get it. I really do. Those are finer guns, and they are worth more money, and I said so. But strip the collector romance off it, and the numbers only point one way. A Parker in a safe is already recognized. Everybody who owns one knows. Nobody is accidentally selling a Parker for $400. The Wingmaster in your closet is the one that is quietly worth 3 times what you would take for it, and it is the one most likely to get its barrel cut this year by somebody who has no idea. Proven, common, and disappearing in original condition faster than anything else on this list. That is what actually makes something appreciate. Now here is the part that is worth more than the whole list. How to check yours, and it takes 4 minutes. Look for a cut barrel first. Compare it against the standard lengths for that model, 26, 28, 30 inches. A cut barrel usually has no choke markings and sometimes a crude crown. This is the single most common value killer. Look at the screws. If the screw slots are chewed up, somebody has been inside it. Untouched screws are a very good sign, and collectors look at this before almost anything else. Look for refinishing. Original bluing wears in specific places: the muzzle, the corners, the carry points. A gun with even color everywhere and soft edges on the markings has been reblued, and a reblue costs more value than it adds appearance. Look at the wood. Sanded stocks lose their sharp edges where the wood meets the metal, and the checkering goes flat and shallow. Original checkering is crisp and stands up. Check for drilling. Any hole in the receiver that did not come from the factory takes a large bite. And then check the gauge and the barrel markings, because as I said, 28 gauge and .410 in the old guns are worth multiples of the 12s. If it passes all 6, do not do anything to it. That is the actual advice. Do not clean it aggressively. Do not oil the wood. Do not touch up the bluing. And for the love of everything, do not have it refinished. Every well-intentioned improvement is a withdrawal. If you are going to sell, get 2 independent appraisals from people who do not want to buy it, and understand that the shop offering you money is offering wholesale, which is normally half of what it will retail for. That is not the shop being crooked. That is how the business works, but you should know it before the number comes out. And here is the last honest thing. If it is your grandfather's gun, and it shoots, and you love it, shoot it. Use it. A gun that sits in a safe accumulating value, while nobody touches it, has failed at the only job it was built for. I would rather you take an $800 shotgun out and put birds in a bag with it, than protect a $1,200 one from ever being fired. Value is a nice thing to know about. It is a terrible reason to own something. Training beats gear, every single time. And the most important tool you own sits between your ears, which in this case means knowing what you have before somebody else knows it for you. If I could only keep 3 off this whole list, it would be a pre-1980 Wingmaster because it is the most gun for the money in American history, a Belgian Auto 5 because nobody can build one like that again, and a 20-gauge Ithaca 37 because it is the one I would actually carry all day, not because they are the flashiest. Because they are proven, they are right for the job, and they are the kind of thing you hand your kids someday. Buy proven, not hyped, and do not sand anything. All right, your turn. What is in your closet that you have never had looked at, and what did somebody in your family sell that you wish they had not? Drop it in the comments. And tell me if I got any of this dead wrong, because the collector crowd knows more than I do about the top end of this market, and I read everyone. The comment scraps are half the fun. Next time we do the other direction. The shotguns everybody thinks are collectible and are not, and why the Safe Queen you have been protecting for 30 years is worth exactly what you paid for it. That one is going to start a bigger fight than this one. Shoot straight, buy proven, and I will see you at the counter.